Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance, and I go by the name of mymenrichard. Welcome to a better lifestyle. Today, we're going to talk about financial literacy, and I have the pleasure to have Jerry Fetta with me. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Great. So he's Jerry's a man of wisdom. So I think you guys are gonna like this episode. So please, Jerry, tell us a little bit your story, a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive into to the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on today, Richard. A little bit about my backstory. When I think about with money specifically, and we're going to be talking a lot about financial literacy and education today. I grew up in a family that didn't have financial literacy. And so when I was 8 years old, all in the same summer, my parents got divorced over money. Our house got foreclosed on, the car got repossessed by the bank. And I was homeless on this both the side of my mom and my dad. My mom's house, we were living in a dry camper behind someone's house. And my dad's house, we were tent camping, right? I thought we were just camping, but it turns out we didn't have anywhere else to live. But when you're 8, you don't think about those things. And so I remember growing up, with money, not really understanding it. It was a source of trouble and a source of pain for me in my life. And that stayed with me into the age of 17. And I remember learning, and this was probably some of my first financial literacy, Richard, is I was learning that the dollar is not backed by anything. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by any form of value. And I remember thinking as a 17-year-old, why in the world would I trade the rest of my life to collect monopoly money? Right? If it's not valuable, if it's not worth anything, why would I play that game? And so I remember quitting on money. And so that led to me, struggling financially. And when I got married when I was 19 years old, my first 6 months of marriage, we were actually homeless living in an abandoned house within 6 months. And so I became a financial advisor. I wasn't doing well with money. And I knew at that point, I realized like it doesn't matter whether I participate or not. We live on an economic planet and it's going to drag me along kicking and screaming. And so I can either, be the effect of that, or I can start to learn about it and gain some control over it. So I decided to get licensed and become a financial advisor. And so I got my licenses. I started working with a very large agency and learning kind of the traditional retirement planning and life insurances and paying off debt and budgeting. And my story with my company really begins at the age of 21. My mom got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Now, she was my very first client. And as we know, a lot of these retirement plans, we're able to start taking money out of them at age 59 and a half. And that's kind of when your nest egg is available and you can start finally enjoying all these decades of hard work. Well, when she turned 60, she got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and within 6 months, she passed away. And so as a young financial advisor, I watched, the plan not work with my own mother. And that made me take another look at things and say, for myself, I really don't want to defer my life until I'm that old. I want to enjoy life now. And for my clients, I never want to experience that again. I don't ever want to see somebody that works hard and does all the right things to just not be able to enjoy it down the road and in the future. So a lot of what I do now with financial literacy is studying the historically wealthy and seeing what they actually have done, right? Not what are we told they're doing, not what did the commercials on TV say, not what is Wall Street and the banks telling us to do. What did the wealthy actually do? And how do we duplicate those same concepts in our life today? And my main vision with all of this, and I love that we're on the show today to talk about this, my vision is a world where the majority of wealth is controlled by good people who use that wealth to improve and increase infinitely the freedoms and the conditions of humanity. And they do that across all dynamics of life. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about my backstory, and I hope that gives you some context on what we'll talk about today.
Hmm. So talk to us about your company.
So my company is called Wealth Dynamics. And that stands for abundance and prosperity. That's that word wealth, abundance and prosperity, right? If you look at the etymology, the root of where this word comes from, it's actually an old Germanic word. And it means if someone was well, it means overall well-being. Now, in modern times, we've limited that to just financial wealth. If someone has wealth, we think of Scrooge McDuck and he's swimming around in a swimming pool of gold. Really, wealth means you're doing well everywhere in life. And it does take money to do that. If I think about every area of my life, having abundance and prosperity, that's not going to be inexpensive. And so I need to gain enough money to be able to do that, but it's for the purpose of living wealthy. And the dynamics are the areas of one's life, right? I want to be wealthy, you know, financially, emotionally, spiritually, with my family, with my health, with my relationships, with, you know, Mother Nature, all these things that are out there. And so that's my company. And so we work with, you know, good and able people. We help them gain financial education, gain greater financial security, and ultimately greater financial freedom so that they can have a life of abundance and prosperity in all areas.
Okay. So tell us, what is basically financial literacy in simple terms?
Yes. So financial literacy to me means understanding the truth about money as evidenced by the results that I have with money, right? Knowledge is not just hearing information or watching a video or reading something and being able to regurgitate that. It's how true is the information, right? Based on the fact that money is math. So at the end of the day, if it doesn't actually solve the equation, it's not correct information. And that's the simplicity of it. It's knowing that, applying it, and winning with it.
And how important you think it is for someone to have financial literacy in their lives?
You know, I think it's right up there with you know, there's certain things in life that we're born into, needing to eat, needing to sleep. You know, gravity is one of those things, like they're just there. And so I think that money is one of those things, and it doesn't get considered to be one of those things. And so I think it's just as important as teaching, you know, a baby that it needs to eat a couple of times a day so it doesn't starve to death. Not having financial literacy, you know, really creates the same effects in our lives. And back to that example of someone being able to eat, you can't if you don't have money. So I think it's a very paramount thing, and it's very important for people to have that financial literacy.
Mm. And how could someone increase their financial literacy?
So there's so many ways to do this now. There's shows like yours, Richard. You know, there's books, there's videos, there's TikTok, there's articles. You know, one of the things that I'm doing right now personally, we're running a challenge with my clients. It's called the Big 3 Daily Challenge. And that challenge is every day, and it's about building a habit every day for 90 days. We're having our clients do 3 actions. And I challenge your listeners to do this same challenge on their own if they want to. The first one is spend 10 minutes a day learning something about money, right? Now, when you're learning something about money, what matters probably more than anything is the source. Where am I getting that information from, right? And is that person successful? I used to be a personal trainer, and so I wouldn't take workout advice from an overweight personal trainer. I would want someone that has results physically that can teach me, and I can see that they also are winning with it. And same could be said with finances. So that's really where I would go. Is I would seek, for me, I like to look at old dead wealthy people. You know, I love reading biographies about the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the JP Morgans and the Vanderbilts, these people that we can look at their entire lifespan from start to finish, and we can study what they actually did. Because if they're alive today, they could still screw it up before the end, and it might not be the full picture, right? So that's typically where I like to go to.
And what about if people have kids? How would they go about teaching the kids about financial literacy?
You know, this is a great one. So I have a godson. He's turning 12 next week. And so, you know, I try and really teach him about finances. With kids, they observe more through action than they're going to get through teaching. And so if I'm a parent and I have kids, the best thing that I can do is lead by example and then explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Right. And so rather than sitting down and saying, hey, Johnny, today we're going to talk about debt. Let me give you all the information about debt. Johnny doesn't know what debt is. He's 6 years old. You know, he's never going to understand or apply this in his life today. But instead, you know, you pay off your credit card. And when you do that, you have the statement that says you paid it off, and you sit down and you say, hey, I want to show you something we just did. The family just had a win. We paid off the credit card. They were charging us money and now they don't, and we were able to keep it, and now we can build savings. And I think that that's the best way to teach kids, is lead by example and then explain in real life what's happening as it's happening in a way that they're going to get it. And it provides that mass and that reality of like, oh, wow, this is something my family does right now.
What are some financial concepts that are related to financial literacy that someone would need to know, like the basics of, we know about savings and all that, but what are some other concepts that people should be aware about?
So I love this question because there's a lot of basics out there. And you've got to look at the stats, right? So right now, the Social Security Administration is saying that only 5 out of 100 people are going to be financially secure. Americans were surveyed, only a third of them said that they felt like they were on track for retirement. If you look at the average savings in the country, the investing in the country, it's not doing well. The stats don't show that we're winning, but lots of people will tell you that they know they should put money here, they know they should do this, and it's like, if we know these things, why aren't the stats better? So one of the main things that I think Americans are missing, and not just Americans, this can apply to anywhere in the world if your listeners are outside the US, is pay yourself first, right? Now, this is one of those ones, as soon as I said that, most of your listeners said, oh yeah, I know. Hey, let's break this down. Pay yourself. That's you. So if I have money coming in and I stick it in my 401k plan, did I really pay myself first, or did I just pay Wall Street first? I just paid Wall Street first, right? Or I have money come in and I stick it in my checking account or my savings account, where it's going to go to my bank, and they're going to loan that money out to someone else. They're going to put my money at risk and charge interest on it and pay me little to nothing, and I'm not going to see the benefit of that. Did I really pay myself first? Did I pay the banks first? Right? If I'm getting a tax refund, it means the IRS took too much money out of my check every month. I charge them 0% interest on a loan, and they give it back to me at the end of the year as a refund. Did I really pay myself first, or did I pay the IRS first? And so in order to pay myself first, for me, I believe that I need to be my own banker. And that's one of the things that's missing, is when I'm paying myself first, it actually needs to go to me. It needs to go to something that I own and control, something that I benefit from, rather than being dressed up as paying myself first, but really it's going to somebody else and building wealth for them and not for my family.
So what if someone wants to turn around their finances? Let's say an average person who makes 50 to 60,000, or even 70. Let's say they want to turn around, they want to make a 360 because financially they're not doing okay. What would be the steps for them to do that? Did you hear the question yet? Or
Yeah. So the steps there are going to be, if someone wants to really turn their finances around, first thing is taking responsibility for where they're at, right? Money is a scoreboard, and nobody goes into your bank or your wallet and makes you spend things. Nobody put a gun to your head and made you charge up the credit card, right? And so sure, we have circumstances in life that happen, but the decisions we make, back to what you're saying, Richard, is based on our literacy levels, right? How right is my decision? How much help do I get? How much benefit is on the other end of a decision? Is it constructive, or is it destructive? And if I've been making destructive decisions where I've got a bunch of credit card debt, or I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or I'm not earning enough income, I'm responsible for that. Right. And that's one that, I have to own the blame, basically, and realize that I did this to myself. Back to the idea of when I was a personal trainer, if somebody's overweight, it's because they took too much food and consumed it and then didn't exercise. That's the only way it happens. There's not another way, right? And so same thing with finances is I spent more than I earned. I borrowed money that I didn't have, right? And so it's owning those decisions and taking responsibility for where I'm at, and then basically doing a bypass. I'm no longer going to do those things, right? It's making that decision. From here on out, I don't borrow anymore. From here on out, if I'm not earning enough income, I go work more and I cut my expenses down no matter what, right? It's not an if, and, or but, that's what's going to happen now. From here on out, I pay myself first instead of spending money on other things. And that's really where it starts, is with action. And then as I'm doing that, then we go into, okay, I need to start like really learning and understanding more things about money. That 10 minutes a day really can do wonders for someone. And they can start to see, oh, I should do this instead of that. And then it'll start to make sense of why they were where they were. Someone learns about, paying themselves first and building up savings. And all of a sudden they realize, okay, I wasn't doing that. That's why I had to use credit cards. Now that I know this, if I'm in the same kind of situation, I'm not going to make the credit card decision. I'm now going to pay myself first, right? And as they do that, they're really going to start to formulate and reorganize their finances in a way that leads towards success. And it doesn't have to be complicated, right? Like ultimately, there's maybe a handful of things that someone needs to really do as a basic, like a daily habits and things of that nature to win with finances. And as you start doing these things, you'll start to build up more of that foundation and get some momentum.
Okay. Uh, Sometimes people ask like if they have $10,000, where would they invest? What would you say? What would you say about that?
So if you have 10,000, the first thing is to realize that that's not enough money to invest in other assets yet. And I tell you that I grew up, as a kid, household of five on less than $30,000 a year in income. I've been, in a position where to me, $10,000 was a lot of money. And so I can understand, as I say that, there might be a listener out there that's like, well, easy for you to say, well, I started probably worse than most of your listeners did. And I built my way up to where I'm at today. And so now I don't think 10,000 is a lot of money. And if I don't have enough money yet, I would say to invest, really, you need to be starting with about 50,000, and for a couple of reasons. But in order to get to that level, you need to invest first in financial education, right? Think about this. We go to school to get good grades. We get good grades so we can go to college. We go to college to get a diploma. We get a diploma so that we can interview and get a career and a good job. And we get that career and good job so we can earn income. So all of this stuff that we just did, the entire 18 to 24 years of our life was based on getting income. Never once have we been taught what the income is. What do you do with it once you get it? Why do you want it? How do you make it work for you so that you can have freedom in life? And so that I think it starts there. If I had 10 grand, I would probably, take a little bit of that. I'd start learning about finances. The rest of that, I'm going to invest in my own skill sets so that I can earn more active income. So I'm able to start saving in greater quantities and get to that amount of, 50,000 or more faster. Now, when I'm at that 50,000, your investing decisions become better, right? The risk of losing 50,000 is a lot worse than losing 10,000. And so I'm going to be a much more informed investor. I'm going to be much more picky. I'm going to do a lot more due diligence on that bigger number, as opposed to I've got 5 or 10 and let me rush into an investment because I just really want to be an investor.
What other tax strategies that people should be aware about that they could use? Like me, I'm in Canada, so you're in the US, so it's kind of different a little bit. What are the tax strategies that people should know about?
So for Canadians, and we actually, that's really cool. We actually just started expanding into Canada. So we have an office now with some staff in the Vancouver area. And so we're able to work with, Canadians all across the country. So one of the first things I would say, the Canadian tax code is definitely very different than the US tax code. One of the strategies that all Canadians can take advantage of is the tax-free treatment of life insurance. So, and this is not your normal ordinary life insurance. It's called the infinite banking concept. A great book you can read on this is called Becoming Your Own Banker. It's by Nelson Nash. But this allows you to deposit money into your own banking system using a life insurance policy. And you're going to have access to all of that money immediately, just like with a savings account. You can put money in, pull money out, but the money that goes in never gets taxed again. And so that's something where with Canadians, you guys have a little bit different of a deduction system, right? But that's one where if I get money, if I already paid my taxes and whatnot, sure, on the front end, I should do as much as I can to reduce my tax bill. But when I'm getting that after tax income, I should be saving it into a system like this, because the money that I put there is not ever going to be taxed again. And it's got protections in the US tax code, the Canadian tax code. It's a strategy that's been around for, well over 200 years. So that's a big one, I think it is important. And I think, with the Canadian tax code to be general, I think the importance of entrepreneurism can't be stressed enough. I think as an entrepreneur, you're always going to get more deduction opportunities. You're always going to get more write-offs than not, right? And so that just goes to speak to whether it's a side hustle or an at-home business or an online affiliate thing, or you are a full-fledged business owner. I think that that's a route to having more tax write-offs and more tax benefits.
So what about the US for because I have some US listeners. What about the US?
So the US, so this one is going to have a lot more. So our tax code is over 100,000 pages long. If you were to line it up page by page, just like vertical or horizontal here, and you were to take a gun and fire a bullet into it, the bullet would not make it out the other side. That's how long the tax code is here. Now, the code, if you look at who wrote it, it's written by Congress. It's written and passed by Congress. And a lot of those bills are also then published, and sponsored by lobbyists. Lobbyists work for the top 1%. If you go study the net worths of Congress in the United States, most of them are top 1%ers. And then if you look at who hires these lobbyists, those are also top 1%ers. So in majority, our tax code was created and written by the top 1% for the top 1%. But anyone can use it. It's a matter of, again, like you're saying, Richard, knowledge. Do I know what it says? Do I know how to use it? So a couple quick ones I'll give you guys. If you're a W-2 earner where you're on a salary, you're not a business owner, you should have an at-home business. Okay, you should have a side hustle. You're able to write off what's called Schedule C losses. These are business losses. So let's say I have, an affiliate, program that I'm running, or maybe network marketing. I can have a home office. I can be writing off my office space. I can be repurposing maybe money I'm going to spend on meals or my cell phone bill or my Wi-Fi or a percentage of my travel. And a lot of times we'll see that an individual or a family could be writing off, maybe $3,000-$5,000 a year in losses, right? Another one is you can do like your normal, retirement accounts, health savings accounts. But if you do these in a way that's called self-directed, meaning it doesn't go to Wall Street, you're able to take that money and put it into maybe a health savings account or a retirement account and get the write-off, but you're able to maintain full control over that and maybe invest that in real estate or gold and silver or a small business or other hard assets that you maintain control over that are much more lucrative and secure than maybe putting it in stocks and bonds with Wall Street. That's going to give you tax benefits and control. And then the other one is if you have kids. So if you have kids and you have a company, you got to have the right kind of corporation. You can set up a family management entity where your kids work for that family management company, right? And that family management company provides services to your corporation. Your corporation can then pay consulting fees to the family management company, tax deductible to your corporation. Your family management entity then receives that income and pays it to the kids. Right now, you do need actual job descriptions. You do need to have them on real wages, and it needs to be all above board. But you're able to pay your kids tax-free up to the standard deduction limit, and you could even add in IRA contributions. And so what that means is if you can really put this plan together correctly, you could be paying your kids $15,000 to $20,000 per year that's tax deductible to you and tax-free to them. And that money goes back into the family. It can contribute to the family economics and all the stuff that you guys need to pay for, but that can reduce your tax bill substantially. I've got a client in Illinois that has 7 kids, and we were able to lower his tax bill by over 6 figures in deductions just from that one strategy, right? So those are a couple. There's so many of them out there, right? And I would say the key to lowering taxes is education, having a team that's actually proactively looking at this stuff and helping you plan. And then making sure that you're making enough money to actually have a tax problem in the first place. If I'm not paying a lot in taxes, then I don't really need to be worried about this stuff yet. I need to get my income up to the point of it's now a problem and I need to lower my tax bill.
What would you say would be some lessons that you learned concerning money?
Yes, I would say that the first one is how much of it there is. Right. Growing up in poverty, I can attest to the fact that there is something called poverty mindset. It's something that sticks with you. It's this idea of scarcity and money is hard to get and rich people are evil and I'll never be one and I don't know how and I'm never going to be, wealthy and never get a financial break. All of that's garbage, right? There's so much money out there. They literally print it every day. Right? That's what inflation is we're increasing the supply of money that's out there. So there's an ever increasing amount of money out there. And there's actually a dwindling amount of people that are willing and able to go get that money. And so when I learned that, and I learned that you earn income in direct proportion to the value you exchange to others, right? Then that changed the game for me. So I think that's lesson number one is there's a ton of money out there. It's abundant, it's available. And the second part of that is the more valuable I am to others, the more of it I'm going to get. right? Watching Netflix is not valuable to others. Worrying about my health is not valuable to others, right? Thinking about how much groceries cost is not valuable to others. I need to be focusing on how do I build value with others. So that's a big one. The other one that I learned is setting up my own banking system. I wish I had done that way sooner, right? I'm 31 years old. I didn't learn about this till probably in my mid 20s. I just did an illustration of a banking concept with the life insurance product, actually with a family in Canada in the Vancouver area, and they're setting one up for their 6-month-old. And they're putting $1,000 a year into it, and he's able to take that money and borrow against it and piggyback that into the family's investment deals, and they're going to build wealth for him now, right? And when he's in his 20s, 30s, 40s, he's going to have hundreds of thousands and even up to millions of dollars in that banking system that he owns and controls now. So that's a big one that I wished I learned. And then I have lost some money in investments. And so I would say, the thing that I've learned there is, with investing, the root of that word, Richard, actually means to clothe your capital. Right? It says literally like you're putting clothing on your money. And so just like when we put clothing on ourselves, the first thing that I look at with clothing is it's got to be clothing that I control. Right? I don't want to put on pants and then go to the office and I walk past reception and someone else can take my pants away. Right? That's not what I want. And so I'm going to look at, I have, clothing that I control, clothing that I like, clothing that I understand. Right? I don't wear things that I don't understand, clothing that fits me individually. It's also got to fit the things that I'm going to use it for. It needs to be vital first, meaning I'm going to wear socks and underwear before I put on a $400 Gucci belt. And then finally, I'm not one to actually buy the Gucci belt. It can't be overpriced, right? So I need to look at the price to value. What am I paying versus what am I getting? And so that's something I've learned, just by investing, over the years, that as long as all of those points are in, then my investments pan out very well. Anytime I've missed one of those points, it's not gone well. So that's probably the final one I'd say, as far as things that I've learned that I think are valuable for others.
You have, I'm not sure if it's 2 books you have, because when I received them, I saw it was 2 books. Talk to us about the books that you send me, that you send me, and if you have others.
Yeah, and we sent you Blueprint to Financial Freedom, and then did we send you How to Create Wealth, or we sent you Man in the Arena?
Man in the Arena.
Man in the Arena. Okay. So I have several books. I became a published author in 2018. I wrote my first book, How to Create Wealth. And so that book is literally kind of the starting point. Like, these are the things that I started learning about when I went from being what I would call a retail financial advisor to actually studying the top 1%. And it took me, hours and hours and hours on end to discover these concepts. And so in the book, I listed the top ones and gave information on them so people can start that journey that I started, but the trail has already been blazed. And so that's something that I would recommend is How to Create Wealth. I've got several other books. The other one is called Blueprint to Financial Freedom. And that's one of the ones I sent you, Richard. But that one is really designed to give people the proper sequence of building wealth. Right. And so what I found as a financial advisor is my clients weren't building wealth because they had the wrong tools. Right. They were doing what I call retail financial consumerism. We call it Wall Street here in the US. For Canada, you guys call it Bay Street. But the stocks, the bonds, the mutual funds, in my opinion, it's the equivalent of McDonald's, but for finances. And so seeing a McDonald's commercial on TV does not make me a nutritionist. It just makes me a customer of a really big system, and it's usually not good for me. It's not the best quality out there. So, we looked at that, and then we looked at, well, when people start learning about the right tools, they have a tendency to grab all of them and then get very, very confused, because now they have this big mess of new concepts and new financial products and services and systems. They don't fully understand how it all works. It wasn't put together in a neat plan, and then they just have this giant mess. And they often will then say, oh, this doesn't work. And then they give up and never really experience financial freedom. So Blueprint to Financial Freedom, you've done this where you line up dominoes, right? You line them up in order. Did you ever do that as a kid? And then you hit the first one and it goes bop, 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 and they all fall?
No, I didn't do that. I saw people doing it, but I didn't do it.
Okay. So the concept, and that's really like what we do with Blueprint to Financial Freedom. We start with the end in mind. Where are we trying to get to? Let's lay the last domino down first and work our way backwards on building out the strategy. And that's where we give people the right things, like the right tools, right? So I need to be using the right tools. I need to be using them the right way. I need to use them at the right time with the right team and also in the right sequence. And that's those dominoes. And so Blueprint to Financial Freedom gives you all of that, where if you read that book and follow it, those are the dominoes. And then all you got to do is hit the first one and keep going. And it goes boom, 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 boom. And you just follow that until you're there. Right. So that's my third book. And I've got several other ones. Man in the Arena is the other one that I sent you. So I mentioned I've lost some money in investments before. And, the first time I ever, lost money, I had a mentor. And he told me, anytime you lose money or you could have made money and didn't, I want you to consider that that is tuition. You just paid tuition, and the university that you paid it to is called experience. And so whatever you lost or whatever you could have gotten and didn't, consider that that's tuition, and you need to go find more than that in value of education and learning from the experience. Right. And so last year I had an investment that I put money into that, it committed fraud, and I lost a big chunk of my net worth in that. And it was kind of devastating when it happened, but I had to keep that in mind and think, okay, good. I just lost a lot of money. How do I go get more value than what I lost in knowledge and learning from that kind of experience? And so that book is me telling my story of what happened, because, financial fraud, especially here in the US, you could do all the right things and give money to the wrong person and you're done. Right. And that's what I had experienced. And so, it creates awareness on the fact that that is a thing. You want to make sure you really are investing in places that are above board and not going to create that kind of experience in your life. And if it did, there's very little help on the back end, Richard. The regulators and the legal people, they'll tell you, hey, you lost money, you're a victim, here's your rights. Nobody says, here's how you go get it back. Nobody says, here's how you rebuild. Nobody says, this is what happened and here's how you prevent it from happening again. And so my book does that for people, because there's a large population of people that have experienced that and they never get help. And so that book really is designed to create awareness on financial fraud and then explain, what do you do? Like, how do you handle that? How do you rebuild? And how do you prevent it from happening again and still go be financially free regardless? Right. I was able to bounce back in a very short amount of time because of the financial education that I have. So those are my main books. I've got several other ones out there, but those are the main three that we like to give out to people.
Okay. Where can people find those books?
So if you go to store.jerryfetta.com, so store.jerryfetta.com, just my first and last name, you can grab them there. If you want to get a free copy, we like to give away free copies to those that listen to shows like yours, Richard. So if you go to jerryfetta.com, just my first and last name, jerryfetta.com, you can get a free copy of my book, How to Create Wealth. You cover your shipping, we'll send the book out to you for free. And there's a lot of value just there. So I would say probably start with that one. It's very thin, very easy to get through. And then from there, if someone's winning with that material, they can go grab the rest of them too.
Okay. So all they have to do is just go to the website, jerryfetta.com, and get the book?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Where can people find you on social media and the internet?
Yes, we're very big on, I like TikTok a lot. I also like Instagram a lot. So if you go on TikTok or Instagram, just Jerry Fetta, my first and last name. Those are probably the two platforms we're the most active on. We've got a lot more long form content on YouTube. So if you want to watch some longer videos and get some more training, we've got a lot of good free valuable content there as well. And again, just same thing, just Jerry Fetta, JerryFetta, 2 R's, 2 T's. And I'd say those are probably the first three that I would go on.
Okay. And what are your last words concerning everything we talked about?
I would say, just to reiterate, like, financial education is such an important thing. And I would say that the necessity for it actually increases the more wealth you have. And it's one of those unique things in life where that's not always true in all areas, right? But, if I'm just starting out, I need financial education. If I'm in the middle somewhere where I've got investments, if I want to get further, I need financial education. If I'm wealthy already and I've got a high net worth, I really need financial education, because that's where, I have tax problems and legal problems and all sorts of things that can come up. So I would say to take the mindset that financial education is a lifelong journey, and it's going to change with different phases that you're at. and the necessity for it will only increase with your progress, and to embrace that. Just make that part of your daily life.
Great. Thanks, Jerry, for being here on the show. It was nice meeting you and talking to you. So it's a topic that I wanted to touch, financial literacy, for a while. So I'm glad you were able to share your knowledge and give people some insights. So thanks a lot for your time. And thanks a lot, everybody, for taking the time to watch and listen to the podcast. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Wherever you're listening the podcast, make sure you follow and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Bye. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Richard.
No problem.